Welcome to Level 3 Color Education. My name is Hannah Benson and I'm super excited to be here with you guys today to share with you a technique using some of our brand new color products. We're going to be using our Lit Lightener system, we're going to be using our Kray Color. So let's go ahead and look at our model and let's get started. So here we have our beautiful model today where we're going to be doing an all over global lightening technique. So this is going to be more of a retouch because as you can see, she already has very light pre-lightened ends. We're probably looking at about a level 10 with a cool toner over them. We've got her mids here that have pre-lightening as well, but also some previous color. And then we've got about 1.5 inches of her base of her natural color, which is a level 2. So we're working with a lot in here, but our lit lightener is gonna be awesome for this. So the first thing we wanna do on a color service is get our tray set up with all of our tools. So let's take a look at that. The first thing I need are my nitrile gloves. These come in lots of colors, definitely important to protect our hands. We're going to need a level 3 color bowl. These are awesome because they collapse, so super easy to store. This is what we're gonna mix our color in. We're gonna need our croc clips, which are awesome for a pointed end for sectioning as well as holding the hair nice and tight. We're gonna need a color brush. I chose this brush today out of our 12-piece color brush set. It's got really nice soft bristles and a sectioning end, so this is gonna help us get a really nice soft application of our color. We're also gonna need a whisk, a comb. We're gonna need our level 3 pop-up foils here to separate our sections. And then we're gonna need to mix our color. So let's go ahead and mix our lit. We're going to be using our lit bleach powder, our oxidant in 30 volume because she has a really deep base and we wanna make sure we lift that up nice and light. We're gonna be using a color bowl, a whisk, and a digital scale. So lit lightener can be mixed anywhere from 1:1 to 1:3. So what does that mean? That's the ratio that you're going to be mixing your developer to your lightener. So 1:1 would be equal parts of your lightener to your developer, all the way up to 1:3, which would be 1 part of your lightener to 3 parts of your developer. 1:1 is gonna have a thicker consistency, 1:3 is gonna have a thinner consistency. I like a little bit thicker for my lightener, so today I'm gonna be doing 1:1 equal parts. This is where our digital scale comes in super helpful. So let's talk through how to use that. If you've never used a scale before, you're gonna need to place your bowl onto the scale and you're gonna press the tare button, which is gonna allow you to remove the bowl's weight and get an accurate read. We're then gonna go in with our lit bleach powder, which has a scoop inside the jar. This scoop is about 1 ounce of product, but your digital scale is gonna give you an exact read on that. So we're gonna do 2 scoops of lit, which gives us about 2 ounces of product on our scale. And we're gonna do equal parts with our Oxy developer, so we should end up with 4 ounces of product. Perfect. Once we have measured that out accurately, we're gonna take our whisk and mix it up so that everything is nice and mixed so we get a good, consistent application. Awesome, so now we're ready to section and get started. To get started on our color application, the first thing we need to do is section her hair. So we're gonna section it into 4 quadrants to have really nice, clean, easy sections to work with. So we're gonna take our comb and we're gonna start at the top of the crown and go straight down behind the ear for our first quadrant. We're gonna tie this into a nice little Zulu knot and use our crop clip to clip it out of the way. The next section, we're gonna take straight down the back of the head and the center. And we're gonna leave out these shorter hairs in the nape because that's where we're going to start working. And we're gonna section that up and away. And we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side of the head. Now that we have her all sectioned out into our 4 quadrants, we're gonna start in the back quadrants in her nape. So here she's got some short hairs down here. We can see where her dark new growth is. And to do this color application, we're going to be staying off the base about 1/2 inch. Why do we do that? Our scalp has a lot of heat to it, and so that's gonna make our lit lightener process faster. So we'll go back through and do that again at the end. So we're gonna start by applying our lit lightener just about 1/2 inch off the base, like I said. So we're gonna go in with our brush full of product. Make sure that sticks down to the foil. When we're taking our sections, we want to make sure that we're taking nice fine sections, about 1/4 inch. You should be able to read a book or a newspaper or a text through it. So that way we have even and good saturation. So when I apply, I like to go in first horizontally to get a lot of product on the hair, and then I'm gonna turn my brush to the side, and I'm gonna go in and I'm going to side brush. This is gonna give me a really nice soft diffusion so that I don't start to get any processing hard lines. I also like to sweep the hair back and forth to make sure that both the top and the underside of all the hair strands are fully covered. Saturation is going to be the biggest thing here for an even lightening. Once we have our first section done, we're going to take out another foil. Especially since our hair is really nice and short, we're not going to fold our foils, we're just going to lay them back to back since we're doing lightening all over her entire head. So we will just lay this foil down on top and take our next section. So we're going to take about a 1/4 inch section, clip the hair out of the way, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to go in and get a lot of product on our brush. When we think about lightener on the hair, they talk about it like snow on the mountains. You want to make sure there's a lot of product. And then we're going to sweep back and forth, making sure we get a nice saturation. And we're going to continue that process through the rest of this quadrant on the head. All right, so now that we've worked our way up this section, we're getting to her hair that's a little bit longer, and we've got a little bit more of a color story in here. So obviously we have about 1.5 inches of her dark new growth, and then we've got some different levels of pre-lightening and then very light ends. So when we see these light ends, what we don't want to do is overlap the lightener on here for too long. So we're going to stay off that base as well as the ends until the very end of our process. So we want to focus our lightener on the mids here and fully saturating that, but we're going to stay off her ends so that we protect the hair. They also don't need to be lifted very much, so we'll go back through and just run lightener through them at the very end. And then we're going to continue to work this way up the rest of the section. Now that we've worked through both of our quadrants in the back, we're going to move on to one of our front quadrants. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to take down our clip and take 1/4 inch sections. And here we're also going to stay off base about 1/2 inch. We're going to make sure we lighten any of these parts that have previous color in it, and then staying off any pre-lightened ends. We'll work through this entire section. Now that we've applied lit to her mids for the entire head, we're gonna go back through to her base and just take that lightener all the way up. So again, the reason that we don't do that the first time is because of the heat coming off the scalp is going to make that process a lot faster. So we'll go through, we'll touch up her base on her whole head, and then we're going to process. For lit, we do not process under heat. We're gonna just process at room temperature, but the foils are gonna help us to process that inside of them. So we'll go back through between each foil and make sure that we get all the rest of those hairs, fully saturating from the base through the ends. All right, so we're back from rinsing our lightener. here. So as we knew when we started, she had a lot of different color history in her hair. So we've got a lot of different pockets of different levels of color. So the great thing about Kray is once we see our final result of our lightening, then we can decide what custom colors we want to mix to either work with those tones or to try to cancel out or neutralize those tones. So today we really wanted to go with a more neutral, cool palette. So we're going to be neutralizing and cooling out some of the tones that we have in here. So we're going to be using 4 different custom formulas today. We're going to be using a deeper tone for her base, which is 50% violet to 50% gray, with a few drops of blue in there to make it a little more indigo. We're also going to be using 3 smoky, more toner-like formulas. So we're using equal parts of gray to pink, equal parts of gray to light blue, and equal parts of gray to light violet. So we're going to be doing those in stacked sections here. We're going to start with our deeper tone in the nape, and then we're going to use that deeper tone throughout the entire hair on her base. And then we're going to go in 3 different sections and use our different formulas so we have a really beautiful smoky opalescent effect. So we're going to start down here in the nape. We've sectioned her into quadrants again just for easy access to each section and clean sectioning. We're going to tip your head down right here, kind of thinking about it like a graduated color. So we're going to keep it nice and dark back here where the hair is generally a little bit darker. And then we're going to use that color throughout the entire base so that it has a really nice symmetry. And then we're going to move up in different tones as we go. So we've got our nape sectioned out here. We want to make sure that we get all those little baby hairs in as we're coloring this neckline here. Once we have our nape section applied, we're going to continue working through this section with thin 1/4 inch sections to make sure that all the hair gets fully saturated. Once we've completed our first section with that deep base tone, we're going to cover it with a foil. And we're going to continue to move our way up the head, color melting from that deeper tone into our different tones. For each section, we're going to apply our deeper base tone. And we're really going to visualize this as to where we see the darkest parts of the hair, and that's what we're going to go to. We don't want any hard lines here. So we're going to make sure we give it a nice soft diffusion. And then we're going to melt that into our next tone. So one of the amazing things about Kray is its gel-like consistency, which makes it super easy to melt colors together. So you can see we have our first tone. The second tone we're going to do is our smoky blue, so 50% gray to 50% blue. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. Again, I'm using my brush to the side, not using it horizontally so that we don't get any harsh lines. And I'm going to start working that product up and into my base tone. And where those two meet, we're just going to melt them together really seamlessly. To do this again, I'm using my side brush to pull the hair down, and then I'm brushing to the side to help melt those two together. And if I feel like it needs more product, I can always go back with my base tone and just melt that down a little bit more. And there you go. We're going to continue with this technique throughout the entire head. We are back with the final look. We're super excited about this. So as you can see, we had all those dusty tones with our intermixed with our gray. And really this is multi-tonal. So as she styles it, you're gonna be able to see all the different tones we did in here. So you've got that brighter base, but we've got all those smoky blues, smoky pinks, and the nice smoky lavender. So she really turned out beautiful. I think this is a great color story because sometimes you don't always know what your end result's gonna be because of what's already in their hair. But I think that's the great thing about Kray, and Kray being based on the color wheel, is that we're able to see what we get in pre-lightening and then attack it with any tone that we want to create our best palette. So I think she looks great. I think she's gonna have a lot of fun with this. I love styles where you can really see color in lots of different ways. We processed her for 25 minutes, then we rinsed her with just cold water, no shampoo. So we can shampoo with Kray, but we don't have to. Because it doesn't have an oxidant in it, it's not necessary to use shampoo to get it all out. So we made sure that she was nice and rinsed, and then we used our hair serum. That really helped smooth down a lot of the flyaways that were happening, any roughness that was left, but the Kray really left her hair really nice and smooth and closed down that cuticle after we lightened her entire head. So the hair serum helped as well, but the other thing that it's gonna do is it's gonna have a thermal protectant in it. So we love doing that because we definitely blow dried her and then smoothed her in. So we wanna make sure we're protecting that color every step of the way. We finished her off with a little hairspray to get some of her flyaways, and I think this is a great end result. Awesome, so thank you for tuning in to Level 3 Color Education. We can't wait to share with you our next look.